So this is breaking news. It's officially official that Trump has decided to pause all aid, all weapon sales, every loan, everything having to do with Ukraine is officially paused at this moment. They had a huge meeting at the White House, and after reviewing, Trump said, and I quote, they need to try and figure out why Zelensky keeps trying to keep the forever wars going, keep the war going. And they said, after reviewing this, he said, we need our partners to be committed to that goal as well. Stopping the war, stopping the dying. And right now, everybody's flipping out because, again, too, we have been the biggest backer to the Ukraine since they started the war. But now we've relieved sanctions on Russia. We have stopped cybersecurity into Russia from the Pentagon. And now we are stopping aid to Ukraine. So a lot of people are going, what the heck is going on? But there is a lot of talks about what's going to happen next and then how far Europe is willing to go to help them out, because so far they've shown their hands that they will talk the talk, but they won't walk the walk when it comes to Ukraine. Also, this is huge news, guys. Big Epstein news, guys. The head of FBI field office in New York, who had all the files pertaining to Epstein, where they found out that they were destroying servers, had all the extra evidence that they didn't tell Pam Bondi, James Deheney, Denny? D-E-N-N-E-H-Y, Denny? Yeah, has been forced to resign his post as head of the FBI. He claims he was not given a reason why, but the Department of Justice has accused his office of refusing to hand over a trove of Epstein documents to Attorney General Pam Bondi. So thankfully, we're finally seeing some dang action when it comes to people getting fired over these files for not cooperating. Also, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, said, unleash Doge on the Pentagon. It's about time. The Pentagon's budget is massive. $886 billion for 2025, more than the gross domestic product of most nations. Yet, despite this staggering sum, it remains the only primary federal agency that has never passed a clean financial audit. And guys, you don't even want to get me started on what we're about to review over Medicare, the fraud, Medicare overpaying $1 billion a year on just one medication, because the dang pharmaceutical companies and all this stuff that's happening are just gaming the system. We got a ton of breaking news to get into tonight, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who is watching, to all of our subscribers. We're truly grateful for your support and all of our viewers. And thank you to everybody that, if you're not subscribed, for just watching. But if you don't mind, click that subscribe button. And if you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does help out so much with the videos. Thank you to everybody that is a member of the channel, and thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. We are so grateful for your support and helping us grow this community. Also, guys, want to say thank you so much. We are growing like crazy, guys. We're over 164,000 subscribers. When I started back on this about 9 months ago, we've literally gained over 60,000 subscribers, and it's all because of you. But this right here, guys, is official. Trump is pausing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine, and it's not stopping there because he's giving a lot of positive outlooks towards Russia. So everybody's figuring out, like, what the heck is going on. Check this out.
Folks, there's something going on here. President Zelensky needs to understand, as I said before the break, that we are a constitutional republic. We are not a direct democracy. We are what a constitutional republic is, a form of a representative democracy. In other words, in a direct democracy, people vote on everything. Everything. It's not a practical way to run a country this size. So our founders chose this other system, a republic, which is a beautiful system. We love it. But it's a form of representative democracy. It means, however, that there needs to be the political will to do something. People in the United States, voters, by the way, in both parties, more Republican than Democrat, and you know what, cue up that Harry M thing. I'm going to play that next. Go out of order a little bit. I'll show you the polling on this. You need the political will to keep this going, because this country operates by consent of the governed. So Zelensky needs to understand that what happened in the Oval was a disaster. I don't care what the media says, right-leaning media or left-leaning media. There are so many people, just go to Twitter. There are so many people upset about this. Just look on Twitter. I mean, it's not an official polling sample. I'll get you that in a second in case you think I'm just throwing Twitter examples out there. The polling behind this is not great either. He needs to understand that. He's putting President Trump in a bad position. But second, there's a threat in this, too, with the nice ocean thing. I was just kind of discussing this with Avita. What's going on here, and you're seeing with this class picture, VO that if you could, the class picture of President Zelensky visiting the EU and other European Union countries afterwards, which is fine. This is not a problem, by the way. This is great. But the implied threat here, especially from the EU, which you've seen with Germany and others, which shouldn't happen, is, hey, you know what? We don't need you guys. We're kind of going to do our own thing.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure that's the case. I'm not sure that's the case. This is a problem that's been addressed, by the way, by Republican and Democrat lawmakers under Republican and Democrat presidents in the past, where there's been this schism, and you can look it up, between old and new Europe. They don't all feel the same way. You are going to need us. And yes, we need you too. The European Union is a massive trading partner for the United States. You can't think about this with simple minds. But you've seen it, especially if you view the commentary from Germany and others, and even out of France. There's this kind of implied threat that not only is there this new Europe, old Europe, but there's a new US, old US, and a new US we don't need as much. You absolutely are going to need us. But this is your backyard. That's just a geographic fact. It's not an insult to the EU countries. This is your backyard. Russia is a bigger geographic problem, location-wise, for you than it is for us. It's still a problem for us. We get that. But we need you to step up. The security umbrella for the United States has been a generational, obviously a thing for us through NATO and other alliances, but you need the political will to keep it going. Here's CNN, again, in case you think I'm making this up. This is why this apology and a repairing of this relationship, if it's even possible, is going to have to start from Zelensky and Ukraine. You got to develop the support with the American people before President Trump moves. Check this out.
Republicans on the Russia-Ukraine war, look at this, want a quick end of the war, but Russia still keeps the captured land from Ukraine. Look at this. Look at the majority of Republicans.
Yes.
74%, three-quarters of Republicans,
in the
near
forever
unanimity
war
on that particular subject, compared to just 25% who say that they support Ukraine's fight, even if it means a longer-lasting war. The bottom line is this, it's very clear, very, very clear that Republicans want an end to this war. They are willing for Ukraine to give up that land that Russia currently has. They do not want this war extended. And I think what we saw yesterday in the White House was a clear illustration of that Republican point of view. Donald Trump representing Republicans well on this issue.
Folks, receipts matter, okay? Evidence matters. We are in a republic. You get the point. You have to build political capital for these things. I'm not sure Zelensky understood that. His people may have, but he made a catastrophic error here. Here's Marco Rubio, which again, plus ones, minus ones, I think he did an amazing job explaining this. Here's Rubio, Secretary Rubio, just about a week ago, explaining why President Trump is upset with Zelensky. For those out there putting out the narrative that this was like some planned assault on Zelensky in the Oval Office, that's just not true.
Nope.
I'm telling you from multiple sources, I've read publicly, by the way, that was not the intention of the Oval Office meeting. It was just to sign the deal. It was Zelensky who turned it negative with the nice oceans comment and then suggesting that diplomacy, questioning J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, on what diplomacy was. Here's, this is a week ago, Secretary Rubio explaining why President Trump's upset with Zelensky. Check this out.
I think President Trump is very upset at President Zelensky, and in some cases, and rightfully so. Look, number one, Joe Biden had frustrations with Zelensky. People shouldn't forget it. There are newspaper articles out there about how he cursed at him in a phone call because Zelensky, instead of saying thank you for all your help, is immediately out there messaging what we're not doing or what he's not getting. I think the second thing is, frankly, I was personally very upset because we had a conversation with President Zelensky, the Vice President and I, the three of us. and we discussed this issue about the mineral rights. And we explained to them, look, we want to be in a joint venture with you, not because we're trying to steal from your country, but because we think that's actually a security guarantee. If we're your partner in an important economic endeavor, we get to get paid back some of the money the taxpayers have given.
And remember, guys, Trump even pointed this out to Zelensky and said, if we have troops and people working there mining all the rare earth minerals, Russia will never shoot anything, bombs, missiles, or anything towards y'all because the United States is there and they know not to mess with the United States. So common sense, but Zelensky still didn't get it. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, guys, thank you so much for your support.
Close to $200 billion. And it also, now we have a vested interest in the security of Ukraine. And he said, sure, we want to do this deal. It makes all the sense in the world. The only thing is I need to run it through my legislative process. They have to approve it. I read 2 days later that Zelensky's out there saying, I rejected the deal. I told him, no way, that we're not doing that. Well, that's not what happened in that meeting. So you start to get upset by somebody. We're trying to help these guys.
Yep.
One of the points the president made in his messaging is not that we don't care about Ukraine, but Ukraine is on another continent. You know, it doesn't directly impact the daily lives of Americans. We care about it because it has implications for our allies and ultimately for the world. There should be some level of gratitude here about this. And when you don't see it and you see him out there accusing the president of living in a world of disinformation, that's very counterproductive.
The chat's going wild on this, by the way. I'm reading all your comments watching this. Folks, this is a masterclass interview right here. This is a huge +1. There are two takeaways from that interview, which I'm sure a lot of you in the chat caught. And this is why this is perfect right here, this interview. Number one, President Trump knows that there may not be the political will in this republic right now for a direct security guarantee. Follow me here. In other words, we will put U.S. troops on the ground. He understands, for many of you, I'm reading your chat comments right now, that that's a no-go. So he understands this is going to have to be messaged. That's what happens in politics. So did you hear what Rubio said there, Secretary Rubio? Well, if we can engage in this joint venture where at least the American people feel like they're being paid back for their efforts with these critical rare earth minerals, which are called rare earth minerals because they're rare, what he's saying is, did you hear what he said there? That we have a security interest then in preserving this economic benefit, which will assist both countries. Do you get kind of the winky nod?
Guys, that's what, and again, when we look at what Trump is doing now, he said, you know what? We're done with this. We tried making good deals. We tried to work with you. And all you kept doing was trying to badger us, telling us we need to do more. And now that we've stopped everything, guys, all weapon sales, all loans, all money, all military aid, everything has been officially stopped. No more. It is done. Trump is now telling the world, you either get on board with how things are supposed to be fair and honest and stop screwing over the United States, or we are out. You want a clear picture of this, everybody? This is a map of the NATO defense spending just posted by Anna Paulina Luna, representative in Congress. Look at how we are overwhelmingly the majority of all the spending in NATO defense. Is this fair? Does this make any sense? They literally, nobody puts the percentages they're supposed to, like the United States. And yet everybody expects us to follow their rules when they're crazy. Trump is trying to stop these forever wars, and they want to keep them going. That's not happening. We're seeing so much change, guys. I cannot wait to get to the next story of what's happening on the FBI front, the Epstein files. The head of the FBI in New York was just fired today, like a couple of hours ago. But this Ukraine deal, the economic changes, the $100 billion investment from the Taiwanese chip maker that's happening today, it's all the Trump effect. Trump is taking America to the next level. Listen to this.
It's just on the confirmation hearings. It's taking down the leadership of the RNC. It's removing McCarthy as speaker. It's removing McConnell as leader. That was you. That was you. That was you. Your power is unlimited once you understand you actually have power. It's unlimited. And that's where they're freaking out. And the smart guys like Mike Allen and Jim Vanderhey have kind of looked through and said, hey, I think I see where the source, it's Trump, and it's coming through, it's manifesting itself through these podcasts and these shows and networks like Real America's Voice. You have to remember when they talk about it, say, we're banned everywhere. This show is consistently one of the top podcasts, but it's a podcast, but that's secondary. We broadcast live 4 hours a day. Live 4 hours a day on Real America's Voice. No, since Trump won, I detest these people because they think they have the control. Plus, you're making them money. Screw them. The border. They lied to you. Think about it. On Ukraine, they lied and they lied and they lied. And here's their arrogance. The blood's on their hands, the suffering that they caused, the destruction of Ukraine that we said time and time again was going to happen, assures the turning of the earth. They sit there in their arrogance and they talk big talk for what? More destruction? It's not going to change. Whether the British are going to put 30,000 troops they can't afford, they'll never put them.
Nope.
And if they put them, it's not going to change a thing. The thing for President Trump, this is why the minerals deal. I kept saying the minerals deal, first of all, I hate the deal. Hate everything about it. What I hate most is say, no offense, when I look at it. And President Trump is trying to be a peacemaker. That's why he was trying to do the deal. He's trying to be a peacemaker. He understands that his hardest core supporters hate this. But that's what a leader does. We will acquiesce to President Trump because he's trying to collect a lot of things and get down the path to peace. But I have said and advocated, forget them. That's a sideshow. That is a sideshow. That is a sideshow. What do you mean? See, that's a sideshow. The thing that matters is the rapprochement with the Russians, with the Russian people. As awful as the KGB is. And people say, well, how can you say, in World War II, we would not have won if we didn't partner with some of the worst people on earth. That was the Bolsheviks, the small group that controlled the Russian people. And guess what? Sent 65 million of them to their death. After they had starved 5 million people in Ukraine. As evil and horrible as Hitler was, Joseph Stalin and the Bolsheviks were pretty damn close. And yes, we partnered them. Remember FDR tried to sell it at Uncle Joe, like he's some nice guy, murderous psychopath. We partnered with him. And in partnering with him, and in partnering with Chiang Kai-shek and the Mao Zedong in China, we saved millions of American lives. It is quite uncertain whether World War II had ever been brought to a close unless we did that. It is uncertain whether America would have taken those types of casualties. Just is. The British, this is why D-Day was so late. The British were so because of the destruction of World War I. We're so hesitant to go back. That's why it was delayed year after year after year. You must understand how we got here. And the lies of these people and their arrogance, and they're just flat out evil. Evil. So it's either us or them. There's no compromise here. I've told you before, you cannot compromise with these people. There's nothing to compromise about. We are right and on the side of the angels, and they are wrong and on the side of the demons. Natalie Winters joins us, our White House correspondent. Natalie, you and I have talked now for years about this concept of decoupling versus more integration. Of course, the pressure on President Trump from Wall Street and from the corporatists, and especially Silicon Valley, is more integration. And obviously, the anti-CCP aspect of our movement is we want to decouple. And now that decoupling is kind of, Marco Rubio's there, Waltz is there, some of his advisors. Why is this Taiwan semiconductor deal, how does that play into that? And particularly given this executive order that really didn't get much coverage that happened a week or so ago, ma'am?
Well, it's essentially the same voices, right? Whether it's Wall Street, big business, all these politicians that are compromised by the Chinese Communist Party that we've documented for years, that were telling us that tariffs didn't work. And now all of a sudden you see a huge investment, as you were talking about, $100 billion, 5 factories in Arizona coming from obviously TSMC. But I think that the whole sort of chip semiconductor argumentation that you've always sort of heard come really from the deep state talking point has always been, this is why we need to stay engaged in Ukraine, right? Because we're going to set a bad precedent, and we really need Taiwan because of semiconductors, because of these chips, right? The United States economy could potentially crater overnight if China were to ever invade. And I think similar to perhaps President Trump's out of the box, conception of what to do with Gaza, this is another solution to a problem which involves reshoring the American manufacturing, not just to achieve supply chain dominance and security, but to effectively, I think, pull the rug out from under the Chinese Communist Party in terms of negotiating tactics. But I also think the numbers here too, Steve, are just staggering. It's been about 1 month since President Trump has been in office. They've already courted $1.7 trillion in foreign investment. It took the Biden regime 4 years just to get up to $1 trillion. And frankly, a lot of that FDI was riddled in sort of the Hunter Biden, foreign corrupt pay for play. The difference is that I think President Trump represents negotiations not from this, perverse geopolitical equity stance where we have to act like we're not the American hegemon that we are, but that we sort of have an economic might to throw around. And the key difference here, Steve, is that now we're weaponizing our government, our economy, our United States dollar on behalf of the American people instead of against them. And obviously President Trump has staffed his cabinet, his administration with people who are China hawks, who are CCP hawks. And I think for so long, every guest we've ever had on the show, you and I have always sat there. We've seen this sort of performative activism, right, coming from the rhinos who talk so tough on China, how we need to decouple, yet when push comes to shove, right, just like these fiscal hawks who did nothing about the USAID orgy of spending, President Trump actually acts and is working to decouple them by taking this, I think, really, really monumental step in the semiconductor industry, which then, of course, has a lot of trickle-down effects. But this is what decoupling, or at least the opening salvo of it, looks like.
Guys, is that not amazing that Trump is already within 1 month, just a little over a month, $1.7 trillion in investments into the United States? That's just a little bit over a month compared to Biden's took him 4 years to get to $1 trillion. But we know there's a lot of back deals that weren't so true with his dealings. Thank you so much, Colleen Beaver, for the super chat. First timer, let's go. I love your show, Joel. Thank you for the truth. Hey, thank you so much, Colleen, for your support. Y'all show Colleen some love in the chat. And guys, just want to say thank you so much for your support. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, we really appreciate it. Wanted to show you this, guys, because this is about as big as breaking news as you can get pertaining to the Epstein files and what is going on. The head of the FBI field office in New York, James Denny, I don't even know how to pronounce that, Deney, has just been forced to resign his post. He claims he was not given a reason why, but the Department of Justice has accused his office of refusing to hand over a trove of Epstein documents to Attorney General Pam Bondi. Finally, we are seeing somebody getting freaking fired over not doing what they were supposed to do and giving us transparency over these JFK files, the Epstein files, whatever. I'm just happy that something has happened with all this corruption. And it's about dang time. And now, again, too, there's more to the story, guys. More is leaking out. Zelensky really wants to sign the mineral deal now. But Trump said it's too late, man. You had your chance. We're going to have to revisit how the deal favors us. And I'm super glad for it. It shows that Trump has a dang backbone. Check this out.
Zelensky on blast again after the Oval Office smackdown heard around the world. 47 sending the Ukrainian leader to his room for having a bad attitude on a potential peace deal with Russia. And instead of apologizing, Zelensky was running over to his European friends, where he said, quote, "An agreement to end the war is still very, very far away." and no one has started all these steps yet. President Trump, not happy with that one.
He should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us. I want one thing to happen. I want all of those young people to stop being killed. They're being killed by the thousands every single week. The money is one thing, but the death, and they're losing thousands of soldiers a week. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long.
Meanwhile, the Democrats and the media are screaming, Russia, Russia, Russia.
The White House has become an arm of the Kremlin.
The Kremlin is delighted.
The only winner in that exchange is Putin.
He's very much in Putin's camp.
As far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States.
And Secretary Rubio is pointing out how President Trump would be getting a Nobel Peace Prize over his efforts to end the war if only there was a D next to his name.
Shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd.
Zelensky was briefed on why he was supposed to be going to the Oval Office. His people were briefed on what was going to happen in the Oval Office. So he goes there knowing that the United States has given him $350 billion. Gift. The EU has given him $100 billion, which is a loan. Okay, so we're the suckers at the other end. So Trump comes in. He wants to end the killing. And Zelensky, at the end of the day, wants to keep fighting. Okay? He doesn't want to stop the fighting. He says, quote, since the end of the war with Russia is, quote, very, very far away. Now, Zelensky wanted the moral condemnation of Putin. Zelensky wanted, and they started lecturing Donald Trump and J.D. Vance about counting on you to stop Putin. And Zelensky is then trying to renegotiate the deal, which is what got J.D. Vance's backup. He said, you don't come here in front of the cameras to renegotiate the deal. You're here for a reason. Now, here's the stupidity of it all. This guy Zelensky's playing checkers and Trump is playing chess. He wants to end the death. He wants to end the war. And how do we do that? Putin is an evil man. Trump knows that. He may say, you know, I understand him. But more than anything, Trump wants to keep Putin from connecting with China to protect us. So with this mineral deal, we will have not just security and a collateral for our money, but we'll have Americans there, businesses there. We'll have boots on the ground, not military boots, but American feet on the ground. And you can bet your bottom dollar, you idiot Zelensky, that with Americans on the ground, Donald Trump is going to protect us if there is any invasion. How does he not understand that? His ego was so huge, and then the Democrats come in, there's Chris Murphy, and says, you know, don't take the deal. This guy Zelensky's a fool. He had a fight with Biden. Biden even yelled at him in 2022 and said, you're an ungrateful pig.
Does this deal go through with the minerals?
It should, right? When you look at what Ukraine has at hand, there's a negotiation to be made. There's a point at which they can come together. And I think all of us have had a chance to watch what happened in the Oval Office play out many times. Some of us have even tried to go back farther and see what that conversation was like before it came to this severe disagreement, or however you want to describe that moment that we all watched together. And it was a cordial discussion before then. Zelensky seems to keep putting himself into an awkward position that he's having to climb out of, saying, to which the president responded, Zelensky's saying, this war is very far from being over. President Trump immediately took to Truth Social and, you know, essentially said, paraphrasing, what a ridiculously stupid statement. There is a way to end this war, and it's through peace, and that is the word that the president continues to use. So the country and the world is going to have to look forward to tomorrow night. This is going to be critical because the president, when he was speaking today in the Roosevelt Room with that financial announcement, investments coming to America, he was asked about this in Q&A from reporters, and he said, I'll have a lot to say about this tomorrow night. So he has said Zelensky is welcome to come back to the table with conditions, okay? And also highlighting, with all this Russia talk, how about Europe? Everybody's quick to point out, the media and the left, to say, oh, look at our European allies, the way they're reacting to this. They're also buying a lot of energy and oil and gas every single day from Russia, lining Russia's pockets. So we'll see what he has to say tomorrow night, but I think that's what's next in all of this.
You were off also on Friday. Were you sick too, Greg, or?
Well, that's what the judge told me to say.
Yeah, we were together.
We were both sick.
That's how rumors get started.
Yeah, I've got to take those pictures down off my OnlyFans. There are two funny things going on right now. One, it's like you're watching the media walking in on a movie at the third act, and they have no idea what happened before. And it's like, oh my God, one man is beating up another man. This is terrible. And then you rewind and you find out the guy that's getting beaten up had it coming. Yeah. He's a criminal, and he deserved it. So right now, I find it funny because to me, this is a negotiation process. Anybody who's been in a negotiation knows there's always a walkout or a blow up. I've done it, I don't know, 10 times. I get up, whenever I'm in contract negotiations, I leave. It's the best tip for anybody, get up and leave. Yep. And you know what happened? It resets. My prediction is, of course, there's a deal. This was just a little step along the way, and anybody who freaks out about it has never actually. This is the god of transparency. Donald Trump just showed you how negotiations work. He might throw you out. He's turned this whole thing into Celebrity Apprentice. You know, it's a business. He realizes that if you want peace in the world, you don't spread democracy, you spread business. Because you create business relationships with people, and then they don't want to kill you. It's as simple as that. So the question then, the funniest part is like, what do the Democrats do? How do you respond to, once again, this blunt common sense? It's always going to be about the methods. So whether it's about solving the border crisis or Doge or now Ukraine, what's the pattern? Because Trump is right on all three, especially Ukraine, when he says, look at all these dead people. And this is a consistent Trumpian vibe. He's a pacifist, hates war. He may hate it from a sober perspective that it's such a waste, or he may be emotional about it. Who knows? He hates war. So he's right on Ukraine. He's right on Doge. He's right on the border. So if you're right on all those things, what do you argue about? The methods. You know, the border's already changed for the better. We know that. It feels different, but what he did was so mean. Then you look at Doge. The American public's behind Doge, but he's so mean the way he's doing it. Then you talk about Ukraine. Did you see what he did to Zelensky? Doesn't matter. He's right. Yep. He's right. So you can argue about how he's doing it and that it's so harsh and unbecoming. It doesn't matter because he's right about the solution. So you can quibble all you want. We have a new president. He's got a pulse. He doesn't need a life alert. Zelensky just found out that maybe he should wear a suit next time. Those are tiny little things, tiny little things. The big deal is when you're right on the issues, sometimes you got to be harsh. In all those areas, he's the adult in the room, which is exactly what we voted for.
Guys, isn't that beautiful? Like, couldn't have said it better what Gutfeld just said, guys, because again, too, who's the only person that has come out, even whenever it came to dang Biden, of we need to stop the wars, we need to stop killing, we need to just get in a room and make a deal. Do something. Mary Busby, thank you so much for the super chat. So love having a real president. Let's go. Y'all show Mary some love in the chat. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, guys, thank you so much for your support. Trump said we should spend less time worrying about Putin and more time worrying about migrant, rape gangs, drug lords, murderers, and people from mental institutions entering our country so that we don't end up like Europe. Again, common sense. Everybody's always trying to make a big deal about something that isn't, and Trump is a person in the room saying, hey, common sense, stop the wars, put America first, get our economy up and going. This is what blows my mind because you cannot argue with irrational people. Trump is so serious, he came out and said, hey, guess what? You know what? Let's not do 10% tariffs on China. let's do 20% tariffs because their failure to address the fentanyl crisis. Not playing around. GLO, thank you so much for joining the True Life News fam. Y'all show GLO some love in the chat. Guys, this is so big because, again, too, who has the backbone to do this? Who has the, you have Zelensky who has the audacity to come up to the White House and try to argue in front of the media and got smacked by J.D. Vance and Trump for doing what he did. But he showed his hand, and Trump called it and said, you don't got the cards. Guess what? Now it's time to pay up. Now he wants the mineral deal. And Trump said, no, deal's off the table. We need to think about this more. Check this out.
Is that President Trump, for now, pausing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine until he determines that the Ukrainians are actually showing some good faith peace negotiations commitment. And a senior Trump administration official is telling Fox this is not a permanent termination of aid, it's a pause. The orders are going out right now. Joining me now, Charlie Hurt, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Charlie, I mean, I'm actually surprised this has taken 3 days since Zelensky pulled that little stunt in the Oval Office. But there you have it, your reaction tonight.
Well, of course, you're exactly right about all this. This is what democracy looks like. This is what the will of the people, what it looks like when the will of the people is enacted in an election, and then you have a president come along and do what he promised he would do during the campaign, which got him elected. And I think it's really amazing to watch these Democrats try to jump into bed and try to collude with Ukraine, collude with Vladimir Zelensky, in order to thwart the will of the American people. Part of what I think is so amazing about it is what you, of course, touched on, that, you know, this goes back to the old Russia hoax business that Democrats have tried to impeach Donald Trump with, and, you know, all the stories they make up about him. But here's the other thing that I think is so amazing about it, is that, you know, the only people who have helped Vladimir Putin over the past 10 years are Democrats. Democrat presidents. Boom. It was Barack Obama and Joe Biden who gave Vladimir Putin Crimea. It was Joe Biden who gave Putin Ukraine. This is the behavior of Democrats. And then you have somebody like Donald Trump who doesn't want to get us enacted, entrenched in a whole new war, wants to be a good steward of the American taxpayers' dollars, and is saying, let's bring about peace, which should be something that we're all in favor of. And they go absolutely crazy. And I think it has to be something more than just their hatred of Trump. There has to be some other motive for Democrats. And I don't know if it's a financial one. I don't know what it is, but something is driving them to keep this war going. And I think we should get to the bottom of what it is.
We all have to remember that Chris Murphy was on the ground in 2014 in Ukraine. I guess there's a total of what, 7 U.S. senators, and no one's saying people have clean hands here. We're not saying that the powers that be at the time were doing the right. They were crushing dissent, no doubt about it. But this has been churning in U.S. foreign policy circles for years. It was Trump who came in and said, "Whoa, what are we doing?
Yep.
We're ushering this situation closer to World War III." It's not that he's pro-Putin, he's pro-realism.
Right.
This is not the American, this is not our, I mean, we want the best for the Ukrainian people, God bless them. But they're not a NATO ally.
Nope.
Period.
And of course, Trump's proposed deal about rare earth minerals in Ukraine, which would put us in business with Ukraine, was a brilliant departure from all the regular talk that has gotten us absolutely nowhere. And anybody who looks at that deal and thinks that somehow Vladimir Putin comes out ahead of that, he does not.
Ridiculous.
I would argue that would be more devastating than anything else, if you want to talk about what's going to hurt Vladimir Putin. And Democrats recognize that that was something that could bring about peace, and they colluded with Zelensky before his White House meeting. And in an effort to undo that, even though he had made it very clear he wanted to sign that arrangement, he recognized that it could possibly lead to a situation where he would have a better hand at achieving peace with Russia. And for whatever reason, Democrats wanted to undo that and blow it up.
Well,
and they did.
And that's what happened, guys, because we did find out that whenever Trump met with Zelensky, that just hours before, Zelensky was meeting with Democrats leaders. And I can promise you, they probably said, don't take the deal. Fight him in front of the media. Do this in front of the cameras. Make him look this, because he's going to do this and he's going to do this. And everybody's going to see that he's just a certain way. They're not stupid, guys. When you're running at the level of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, at the leadership of our country, they already expect certain outcomes. They know certain things can happen. They're prepared for it. They know what they're planning. And that's why Trump gave J.D. Vance the eye, because he knew it was a possibility that Zelensky could renege on the deal of saying that he would sign the minerals and he wouldn't. So, I mean, they're always prepared, guys. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who's watching. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, guys, thank you so much for your support. I want to say, Kenneth Panel, welcome to the family. Let's go. Y'all show Kenneth some love in the chat, as well as John Reppy said, America first, always MAGA. I love it. Y'all show John some love as well. Guys, we got to do it, because this chart that I'm showing you on screen, if we don't do it, all it's going to do is keep getting bigger on the blue side. And we're going to keep getting in more debt. The United States is going to keep funding these forever wars. We spent, I think, what did they say? $9 trillion on Afghanistan, Iraq war, or something like that. Think about that. $9 trillion. That's why we're $36 trillion in debt. It's not by coincidence. But guess what? I promise you, a lot of war military contractors got rich. Bet you. There was a lot of the industrial war complex that got really, really big and made a lot of billions and billions of dollars. This is what Trump sees. He's not stupid. He understands that he's trying to play chess while everybody is trying to play checkers. And he's trying to do what's best for the American people. Check this out.
He got kicked out of the White House on Friday. The staff ate his lunch, and he spent the weekend flapping his gums. Ukraine's president told the AP the end of the war is very, very far away. Trump says, you sure about that?
President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today in AP. I'm not a big fan of AP, so maybe it was an incorrect statement, but he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
A senior White House official tells Fox everything is on the table. And breaking tonight, Fox News alert, the U.S. is hitting the brakes on arms to Ukraine. The Trump administration has stopped financing new weapons sales to Zelensky and is considering completely freezing weapons shipments from our stockpiles, pausing military aid to Ukraine. So Zelensky does the right thing. Isn't that what Democrats impeached him for? Why aren't Democrats calling for impeachment? Suddenly it's not a high crime and misdemeanor. I guess not. This move will certainly bring Zelensky back to the bargaining table.
We should be more appreciative, because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us, because, as you know, that's right there. That's the border. I'm not knocking Europe. I'm saying that they were a lot smarter than Joe Biden, because Joe Biden didn't have a clue. He just gave money hand over fist, and they should have been able to equalize with us. In other words, if we gave $1, they should have given. Well, we gave $350 billion. They probably gave 100, but on top of it all, they get their money back because they're doing it in the form of a loan, and it's a secured loan. So when I saw that, which I've known about for a little while, I said it's time for us to be smart.
Trump right on Truth Social saying Europe has spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far. Elon says it's time to leave NATO. That's probably a good cop, bad cop play. And the Europeans are already feeling the heat. Over the weekend, they pledged billions more in defense spending, which is exactly what Trump's been urging them to do for 10 years. And this benefits the United States because we've always wanted a more beefed up European military alliance to deter Russia. And if the Europeans take the lead in defending Ukraine, they're even considering putting European boots on the ground, America can take a breather and replenish our stockpiles, which are running dry. So we're combat ready for China in case they try something. But making our allies step up is treason to our good old friend Rach.
I think whatever Americans voted for, I don't think people voted to make the United States a subsidiary diplomatic entity to Vladimir Putin, which is the way that Trump is operating here. One of the things that we saw today were leaders of democracies from all over Europe publicly thanking Zelensky today, standing with him in solidarity after this meeting with Trump. You talk about whether or not the United States is any longer associated with the free world.
America has a history of doing business with Russia. JFK used to write secret letters to Khrushchev behind the CIA's back in an attempt to end the Cold War. Reagan and Gorbachev had a record number of summits and signed historic arms treaties. The Gipper and Gorby had a great relationship. Bush looked into Putin's eyes and saw into his soul. And Hillary tried so hard with Moscow, she handed them a reset button to reset their relationship. Trump knows Putin's a snake, but isn't he just resetting the relationship to bring peace?
All we're trying to do here is figure out whether a peace is possible. All these other things that people keep bringing up, that'll have to be a part of a negotiation. Right now, there is no negotiation. Shouldn't we at least try to see if there is a way to end this war in a way that's acceptable to both sides and is enduring and sustainable? How is that a bad thing? I really am puzzled why anyone thinks that trying to be a peacemaker is a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when it's Donald Trump trying to do it, when it's President Trump. It's absurd to me. Shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And 100%. I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd.
Ever since Hillary blamed Putin for stealing the election, Democrats had an enemy they actually wanted to fight. Before that, Bill Clinton was making speeches in Moscow for $500,000. House Oversight says Moscow sent Hunter Biden $3 million checks. Now the Democrats want to look tough. And fight an unwinnable, winless proxy war. Now, the Ukrainians, the Europeans, the Russians, the Americans all want the war to end, except the Democrats don't. We thought Zelensky wanted the war to end, but then something happened.
It takes two to tango, and you're going to have to make a deal with Russia, and you're going to have to make a deal with Ukraine. I think everybody has to get into a room, so to speak, and we have to make a deal. And the deal can be made very fast. It should not be that hard a deal to make. It could be made very fast. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal. They've suffered more than anybody else. We talk about suffering. They've suffered.
White House sources say Zelensky has 3 strikes. Strike 1 was tearing apart the mineral deal they had weeks ago.
I was personally very upset because we had a conversation with President Zelensky, the vice president and I, the 3 of us, and we discussed this issue about the mineral rights. And we explained to them, look, we want to be in a joint venture with you, not because we're trying to steal from your country, but because we think that's actually a security guarantee. And he said, sure, we want to do this deal. It makes all the sense in the world. The only thing is I need to run it through my legislative process. They have to approve it. I read 2 days later that Zelensky's out there saying, I rejected the deal. I told him, no way, that we're not doing that. Well, that's not what happened in that meeting. So you start to get upset by somebody. We're trying to help these guys.
Strike 2 was walking into the White House without a suit. The White House asked Zelensky to wear a suit to the meeting, just as a sign of respect. And Zelensky shows up in a long-sleeve T-shirt and cargo pants. Strike 3 was inside the Oval Office.
The tragedy of Friday, and I don't know what President Zelensky was thinking, we had President of France, Emmanuel Macron, in on Monday. Great meeting. We had Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday. Fantastic meeting. They were all on board the arc of the peace agreement. All President Zelensky had to do was come in and sign this economic agreement, and again, show no daylight between Ukrainian people and the American people, and he chose to blow that up.
So the deal's no longer on the table, just to be abundantly clear.
Not at present.
One White House senior advisor says, I'm not sure this is salvageable.
That
3
is
strikes
crazy.
and you're out. It's not like Zelensky wasn't warned. Ukraine-friendly members of Congress were prepping him ahead of time. One person in the room told Politico this: everyone was giving him the same advice, which was get the deal done, don't play games, and be very appreciative of everything that Trump and the administration have done. Lead with thank you for everything that you've done and get the deal done. But Zelensky didn't even say thank you, just like he didn't say thank you to Biden. When Biden screamed at him on the phone in 2022 and told him to show a little more gratitude, Zelensky just brushed it off. So what happened? Well, 40 minutes before this meeting in the Oval, Zelensky was meeting with Senate Democrats. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy said, quote, just finished a meeting with President Zelensky here in Washington. He confirmed that the Ukrainian people will not support a fake peace agreement where Putin gets everything he wants and there are no security arrangements for Ukraine. So Murphy got in his head. And less than an hour later, Zelensky starts a fight with Trump and Vance and blows up the deal again. And then Murphy gets on TV and says this.
The White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. Every single day, you hear from the National Security Advisor, from the President of the United States, from his entire national security team, Kremlin talking points. For the last week, the White House has been pretending as if Ukraine started this war. That's essentially saying that Poland invaded Germany at the beginning of World War II.
Look at this dirty little trick. Sabotage a peace deal so you can call Trump a Russian puppet. Democrats don't even have a peace plan. They don't even have a plan to win this war.
Nope.
Their only plan is to keep it going so you can call Trump a traitor for trying to end it. President Biden was caught telling donors here in Manhattan that this country has never been so close to nuclear Armageddon. All Trump's trying to do is stop World War III. And the American people want it stopped too. 72% of Americans want Ukraine to negotiate a settlement.
Yes.
And 60% of the country agrees with the way Trump's going about it, negotiating directly with Russia. Ending the war lowers energy prices, which brings down inflation. It also heals the world's messed up supply chain, which also brings down inflation. It boosts European defense spending and saves American combat power for the Pacific. Lets us focus on more urgent problems like the Iranians and the Chinese. And these sanctions we have up, they hurt the dollar as the world currency because it drives other nations to trade in other denominations. And it drives the Russians away from a deepening alliance with the Chinese and gives us a new market for minerals that our tech sector is going to need in the arms race. So Zelensky says he's still ready to sign the minerals deal, but he's got to do one thing first.
I have been told by a senior official here that nothing's going to happen with this minerals deal until Zelensky goes in front of cameras and makes an explicit public apology for the way that he behaved himself.
Philosophers throughout the history of time have warned about the excesses of pride, and this looks like a prime example. America is a very forgiving nation. Donald Trump has shown that he can work with people who've called him some of the worst names imaginable. So this is a very fluid situation. We've apologized to other countries before, so there's nothing wrong with having other countries apologize to us.
And it's about dang time. If we don't get, because again, too, guys, if this doesn't get into order, I promise you, there's already been talks about removing Zelensky from power so that we can get the deal done. Because he's the only one standing in the way. He literally has martial law where there's no elections in Ukraine right now. They have one news network that is controlled by the country. They literally signed a law that says that Zelensky will not negotiate with Putin for a deal. So who has to do it? Somebody outside of Ukraine. So literally he's put himself between a rock and a hard place. Trump's trying to fix it. Guys, I wanted to show you this because this was put out by Tara Bull, really big person on X, putting out a lot of the breaking news. Because I'm telling you guys, there's so much happening. I want to bring you the best news possible because this is such, it gives people hope and it's so amazing. But she found out Elon Musk, and if guys, look, Tara Bull literally has 1.1 million followers, right there at the bottom, right here, 1.1 million. Super well known in breaking news. Says Elon Musk wants to abolish all property taxes in America. And they're trying to convince you that this is the bad guy. So there's things that they're working on behind the scenes. They're already getting it done in Florida to abolish property taxes. And what they want to do is do it across the United States. And do it because they said if you buy your house, pay for 30 years on a mortgage, you should probably own it. Why do you keep having to pay property taxes and pay the government? Because then you really don't even own it, because if you don't pay that, they'll come and seize your house. But what I love too, guys, is what's next. The Pentagon, remember, they have failed 7 audits in the past 7 years. And they're about to be audited, and I love it because they're the next on Doge's chopping block. Check this out.
If Congress even spoke to the secretaries before they passed their budget, increasing defense spending by $100 billion last week, because Doge is over at the Pentagon right now, and they're releasing a bunch of findings and eligible cuts, and Secretary Hegseth is still on track to cut his 8% of their budget this year, which amounts to about $60 billion. And it almost seems like Elon is watching this show, because today, the Pentagon's area of focus is civilian employees that I laid out over 2 weeks ago. Civilian employees. There are about 750,000 of them in and around the Pentagon, or in the DoD as a whole. Some of them are former military guys that are doing the same thing they did for a similar department in the military, but now as a civilian, they're getting paid twice as much. And 5,400 probationary employees are gone as of today, but they're probably wishing that they took the buyout. But Pete Hegseth has instructed all remaining civilian employees at DoD to respond to the OPM email asking, what would you say you do here? 5 things you did last week. They will have 48 hours to respond. And if you don't answer, it may lead to what they're saying is further review, which in Doge world is not really a good thing for your employment. Look, I know when people start talking about defense cuts, everyone screams, or at least the neocons, we're going to be less safe. We won't be if you do this right. What we can stop doing is being the world's police. That's right there, saves a ton of money. But beyond that, the Pentagon wastes money. Trump has been on this for years.
$60-70 million plans. You mean you think it's cheaper to leave it there so they can have it than it is to fill it up with a half a tank of gas and fly it into Pakistan or fly it back to our country? You think, yes, sir, we think it's cheaper, sir. That's when I realized he was a idiot.
That dude's right. How is it cheaper to leave all that stuff in Afghanistan? Especially since, at the same time, we were spending billions more dollars to order new versions of the exact same thing we were leaving over there. Put the half a tank of fuel in there and fly them home. And we did this in Iraq, too. Look, I was asked to call in airstrikes on military equipment that still had the plastic seat covers on the vehicles. It was ridiculous. Here, shoot this Connex box worth of ammo because we need to get rid of it. And then the next day, like another military transport shows up with more ammo. What are we doing? When I was in Fallujah during the drawdown in 2009, they literally flew in pieces of a D9 bulldozer, assembled the thing, put a bunch of armor plating on it, never used it, and then left it there on this base. I mean, sure, we were taking turns like driving it around this empty base, and it was fun as a 27-year-old, but we were just running over like a bunch of trailers that we also left there. But when I look back on it and I see how much I pay in taxes, it's maddening to me. This is about spending money smarter. Do we need 700,000 civilian employees? No, trust me, we really don't. And if they need a target of specific areas, may I suggest starting in the procurement wing of the Pentagon. Our procurement process is a mess. Okay, true story. I'm a brand new guy. I check into SEAL Team 10. I got tons of motivation, about zero experience to match it. What's my first task? Hey, Carl, here, test out this new gun we want to evaluate. They send me out to do all these stupid things. Okay, shoot it, skydive it, probably $1 million just in jet fuel to do that one. We swam this stupid thing for like 4 miles along the coastline of the Atlantic Ocean. We had to live outside in the freezing cold with it for a week. We had to bury it, dig it back up, whatever we could think of to try to destroy this thing. And at the end of this whole evaluation that probably cost millions of dollars, me and the other 7 poor souls that were chosen to do this stupid dog and pony show decided, yep, this gun is a piece of junk. It breaks all the time. It's unreliable. We should definitely not use this. Plus, everyone already really likes the M4 that we use, so shouldn't we not change that? Anyway, we didn't hear anything back for, I don't know, like a little over a year. And sure enough, a year later, like 4,000 of these stupid things show up at the team and they start handing them out like they're doing us a favor. And I remember looking around the room and we're like, what? WTF, man? And what's worse, too, on a broad scale, we spend billions, and I mean billions of dollars to build, buy, or access things at the Pentagon that by the time they're approved, they're almost completely obsolete. I mean, pick one. I have a better thermal scope on my hunting rifle than the team's issue right now.
Wow.
Why? Because it takes them 5 years to approve anything, and by the time it does get approved, Cabela's has a better version for $1,500. This is like there's some animosity for technological advancement from the approving wing of the Pentagon. You can fire all those people. It'll be better. Once they're committed to something, though, they just keep spending money on this stupid thing rather than innovating it. It's like the F-35 program. They launched this 5th-gen fighter program around the same time we invaded Iraq. Didn't roll one out until after we left the country, like 10 or 15 years later. Well, what was the point of that?
Wow.
We crashed a bunch along the way. And oh, by the way, it's a $1.7 trillion program over its lifetime.
Holy
Meanwhile, in the same time, Canada did not. China just tested a 6th-gen fighter, and we're still committed to what we're doing. And the planes we are using for our show of force, you know, the Blue Angels, they're flying around the world in planes that were designed in 1978. Oh, look, you can fly upside down. Yes, you and Delta Airlines. Oh, they have a C-130 too. Yeah, that was invented in 1954. This is what I'm talking about, guys. We're still using planes that were built more than a decade before the Vietnam War, but spending literally trillions on new stuff that doesn't get to our troops until after the conflict it was built for. And to combat that, we just launched a new team led by civilians. This is like in the last few months, by the way, to evaluate building a 6th-gen fighter on top of the $1.7 trillion F-35 program that will cost $300 million an airplane. And we won't get it until 2035 when China's already flying their 7th-gen fighter. This is unbelievable. $37 billion we spent on ships that don't work, can't drive, and most of them couldn't even dock properly with their systems. And what's worse, they knew about it for over a year, and they kept building the darn things. This is a huge margin that you could effectively cut, and we would be no less safe. We'd actually be more safe. America spends more on defense than the next 25 countries combined. That is not the source of our strength, though. The warrior is, and we spend the least amount of money on that. In the SEAL teams, you are averaging 3 major surgeries every 10 years. Trust me, I have no ACLs, no rotator cuffs, I got slip disc, all kinds of problems. We spend no money on that. We're basically lighting money on fire everywhere else. But most of the bases you go to, or at least I went to, they have antiquated gym equipment, no trainers, and a lot of guys are doing stupid things that are getting their backs injured and putting them out of combat time. When I was in the military, not once did I ever see a single nutritionist be like, hey, this might make you healthier if you eat these things right. My point is, let's re-examine what we are spending our money on and not how much we...
Guys, it literally blows my mind, guys, because again, too, the level of just horrible management of our taxpayer dollars is at the highest level ever. And we would know nothing if it wasn't for Elon Musk and Doge and Trump. None of these systems would be audited. We'd still be paying USAID $60 billion a year. The federal treasury would still be writing checks with nothing on the notes to say what it's actually going for. The Pentagon would still be failing audits just like it has been for the past 7 years if we didn't have Elon Musk, Doge, and Trump. Leadership matters. And this is where I'm so thankful because, again, too, getting to report this makes me super happy because I'm showing you as much as I can about all the breaking news because we're not going to be able to cover all the winning. There's just too much of it, guys, but I'm happy about that. I want to say thank you to everybody that's watching, guys. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does mean the world to me, guys. Thank you so much for your support. I want to thank all of our members of the channel. And don't forget, guys, we're going to be trying some really cool stuff we just learned today on the other channel, TrueLife Breaking News. The link is in the description to go and subscribe to that. Because, again, too, there's some content out there that we want to use. We just have to be creative, and I'm super excited about how we can do that. And want to say give some love to our members of the channel. If you want to be a member, the link is in the description to join. Thank you so much, Debbie Davis, Colleen Beaver, Mary Busby, GLO, Kenneth Pennell, John Reppy. Y'all show them some love, guys, in the chat. We couldn't do this without you guys. I just wanted to give some love. I see Chip Trap, Brad McKay, JH, Alice Lewis, What's New, Joe Dirty Dirt, B1 Sly One, GLO, Hippie, guys, QDA, Adeline Star. Guys, appreciate y'all so much. Renegade, X2112. Appreciate y'all so much, guys. OG, D-Dog, Gene Sewell. Love you all. Appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.